Welcome my friends back to Marvel Snap. We've gotten our hands on the latest Datamine released with the current patch, being able to augur into the future 2 seasons ahead to Draken's release. I'm insanely excited for these cards. It looks like they're going to be spawning a new archetype, a hybrid mashup of destruction and discard together that I have been so excited to be breaking down. We also have the breakdown of the Phoenix Force season that's going to be coming after the Spider-Verse, talking about the Spider-Verse cards that are coming out. So this video is going to serve as a bit of a buyer's guide for what we have currently, being able to budget out token purchases for everything that is new releasing, allowing you to find the most competitive cards and not fall into the token traps, because we have the developers being very generous in terms of releasing cards directly into Series 4, but also we have had the worst Series token shop drop that we have ever seen. We're going to break everything down. We have a lot to go through. Let's get to it. And now Draken, the new hotness. So we have some new Datamine cards. Let's break them down. Let's get them a little bit larger. One up, we got Loki Datamine. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down. The developers are just teasing us at this point. They are starting to put assets in for what they are going to release alongside Loki Season 2. And this stat line, I'm sure, is going to be changed. The ability is just a joke. The second inner is trolling the data miners with the reveal of a couple Loki cards getting placed as like placeholder assets in the game. So we're going to X out of this one. And then look at X23. The first hint of the new archetype that is going to be standing alongside Wolverine, mashing together discard and destruction. Ooh, 1/2 when this is discarded or destroyed. We're going to see this keyword a lot. Regenerate, exactly what Wolverine does. At a random location, you get +1 energy. You don't get +1 power. Wolverine is scaling power. You get energy. Getting extra energy is the most powerful stat in the game at the moment, and X23 being able to generate it more consistently than Psylocke scares me. We can ramp, we can combo, we have so much freedom here, and then you're also getting the destruction regeneration value of being able to knock down these 1-cost tokens, make death cheaper, make null more powerful. All of those extra synergies are getting fed as well. Play it in discard to be able to ramp into a discard piece that much faster. It's looking like the efficiency of a destruction discard mid-range deck could really be there. It's just so hard to judge these cards without getting to play them together, because it's an archetype that we're not really able to play right now. Sure, some mid-range lists are keying off of these synergies, but they're not really able to do very much with the synergies, and they're not able to do very much in the meta right now either. So let's look at what all the package is going to be able to bring. Lady Deathstrike, altered dramatically from what we had seen of previous iterations of this character. 5/3 on reveal. Destroy each card here with less power than this. Easy way to be able to smash X23, and remember, the 5 cost is not nearly so restrictive when you have X23, who's going to be potentially allowing you to play Deathstrike on 4. Stack up the destructions, easy way to be able to destroy, say Wolverine as well, Bucky, some cards from the opponent. All of that goes into fueling null, kill the Deadpool. There's a lot to love. There is a lot to love with Deathstrike, and because we're keying off of her power, this is yet another synergy that we are going to see again. The value of hand buffs is really going to be present. There could also be a world where you try and put a board buff and then reactivate with an Odin, or you're looking to be able to get a reactivation based on an absorbing man, extending the strike. That's something that I really like, actually, is Lady Deathstrike on 4, killing X23, and then allowing you on turn 5 to be able to combo the absorbing man into yet another destruction of X23, and you just keep the good times rolling right into Silver Samurai. 4/5, we got the Zabu synergy queued up. On reveal, each player discards the lowest power card from their hand. It is a much more expensive, slightly clunkier version of the discard piece that we already have. 2/4, you discard the cheapest card in your hand. This is lowest power, not lowest cost. So there's a completely different interplay here, but I think it can largely play into the same kind of synergy. You could be looking at being able to target this onto Swarm. You're also going to be able to look at targeting this onto X23, and you're going to be able to look at targeting this onto something that Draken is revealing in a moment. So Silver Samurai, because you're also knocking a card from the opponent's hand, could bring to life the play style of Black Bolt. Able to knock yet another card, so you play Silver Samurai on 4, then you play Black Bolt on 5. You've knocked 2 cards out of the opponent's hand. If you were able to stop one of their draws with a Black Widow earlier on, and then on turn 3 have also played Moon Knight, your opponent is playing with nothing. They can't possibly have anything left in their hand. So I'm very excited for that style of play to come around as well, with Absorbing Man allowing you to repeat something and be extra oppressive there. I love the feeling when the opponent is just top decking and you have your hand of cards with synergies with what you are trying to play around. Now to bring the entire kit and caboodle home, Draken 3/4. On reveal, add the Muramasa Shard to your hand. Muramasa Shard, 1/1, added to your hand. When this is discarded or destroyed, double Draken's power. There it is. The entire synergy, the entire archetype comes to life. Draken is just one more consistency piece on being able to find the value of these hybrid pieces. You can have Silver Samurai try and hit the Shard. You can have Silver Samurai try and hit X23. You can play the Shard and then have Lady Deathstrike destroy it. You can play the Shard and then have anything else destroy it. Playing it, you can skew more toward discard. You can skew more toward destruction. You can run the true hybrid of all of them together. Honestly, I would love to see a rework prior to this full archetype coming to the game, where Sabretooth also gains the destroyed or discarded language. Right now he's only destroyed. If he could be both as well, then I would be actually heralding this as a meta contender. As it is, it seems very interesting, especially Draken here as a doubling on a 3. The doubling looks like it's pretty easy to achieve, taking him up to a 3/8. That alone is quite nice. But what if we're playing Nakia? I think that Nakia has enough valuable targets here to look very good alongside this. A 3/6 that goes up into a 3/12 with a relatively easy condition to meet in terms of the Muramasa Shard. And then also buffs on Lady Deathstrike, meaning that she is able to leverage even more destructions against your opponent on your own side. Also, if you're running Swarm in this deck, which I think is going to mesh very smoothly, the Nakia with Swarm is going to look good as well. Okoye might be run as well. The Okoye and the Nakia are just a half step behind the meta right now, and then with this whole plethora of new synergies, I could really see them coming back in full force. I'm incredibly excited for what this is. If you guys have any bright ideas on how these cards might be able to run in a meta competitive ecosystem, you're gonna have to let me know in the comments down below. I mean, I want to play this now. Second dinner, why do we have to wait 2 months? But exciting cards all across this month, next month, the month after. And with token shop changes, extra currency getting put into players' hands because of Conquest mode, I think that these are finally releases that we can really get excited about, knowing that we're going to be able to get our hands on a number of these cards right as they release so that we can start testing them out. Of course, I will be doing deck guides and testing of all of the latest cards releasing here on the Teddy Ninja channel. If you want to be able to see more news coverage and deck guides from me, subscribe to the channel. Helps us out a lot. Let's get the lay of the land with the Series 3 cards. I am putting the highest priority on Sarah, Wave, Dr. Doom, and She-Hulk as all-around major foundation stones for your deck building. Sarah is far and away the best card. If you are new to Series 3, you want to be able to make sure that this is your chosen free card out of the shop. Otherwise, I actually do not recommend going for the random Series 3 card out of the token shop for 1,000 tokens. I put a higher recommendation on actually buying Series 4 cards for 3,000 tokens and just allowing the Series 3 cards to trickle in as they may. Because while we have gems like these that are meta-defining, you also have so many duds, and Series 3 is getting more and more bloated, while the developers at the same time with the current token shop drop policy are curating the higher tiers into being more competitive cards, and then worse and weaker cards moving down into Series 3. So I think you're going to be better off saving your tokens for purchasing Series 4 cards or Series 5 cards as they may be, and then being very careful with your free Series 3 card selections out of the shop on the month-to-month basis. Once you have these foundational cards, which She-Hulk might be on the chopping block here, but I still like her. I think that she is very powerful in a number of different positions and is actually a little bit underutilized in the meta at the moment. Then you can start to look to be able to specialize your collection with the amplifiers or the cornerstones, depending on what style of play you really want to be able to key in on and what you find find fun. The Amplifier category allows you to double down on some really flashy abilities to highlight them as win conditions, Wong and Absorbing Man for on-reveal synergies, and Mystique for ongoing. Mystique is certainly the most competitive, but with how infrequently you see Cosmo in the current meta, I think people are sleeping on the power of Wong and Absorbing Man and that they could actually see a little bit more play. But of course, if you just want to follow what the strength of the meta is saying, then Mystique is the most important out of those three. Over on the Cornerstones side, we have the new hotness, that is Lockjaw. He's always been hovering around in the meta, but right now is tip of the spear with high evolutionary and is still upper tier with the more free-to-play accessible side of only using Thor, Jane Foster, and Wasp. You might be noticing a lot of faces here in the honorable mentions. Dracula is amazing in discard. He's also the most flexible piece in discard and is a phenomenal counter to what the high evolutionary lockdown deck is trying to do, or what any lockdown deck is trying to do. When they play wave on curve on turn 3, you have turn 4 to be able to establish Dracula, which will likely at the end of the game be your most powerful card, or could potentially be your most powerful card, and it's going to be incredibly challenging for the opponent to be able to top you there. It allows you to attack their point of strength and turn it into a dramatic advantage for your side. Bast is phenomenal for picking up decks like Mr. Negative, Bounce. Some versions of Sarah are running her, some versions of Cerebro are running her. She is an amazing tool, and the stat efficiency as a one cost just floors me that she is still in the state that she is. Patriot, old reliable, you can't go wrong with Patriot, and he is doing amazing right now in the new Conquest mode. He is just so steady in the power that he is able to produce and the stat lines that he can put a lot of pressure across the entire side of the board. Specifically in Conquest mode, you're going to want to tech in Invisible Woman to be able to play some mind games with your opponent. Down in the honorable mention category, we have Electro headlining the ramp style, which, because it's such a hard counter to both Sarah and Bounce decks, still has a little bit of footing in the meta. And then Thor, Jane Foster, and Wasp. These all come as a package alongside Lockjaw to be able to get the most efficiency out of them, which as a very new Series 3 player could seem daunting to be able to have to assemble the entire package, but when you do, these guys are amazing, and they are playing incredibly well with high evolutionary. Again, I can't stress this enough. That is the deck to beat right now. Right now, the developers basically said high evolutionary, we're coming for you. In the notes on some of the latest balance changes, they're already looking at that deck overperforming, so I'm expecting it to get toned down a little bit. But recently, the developers in hitting cards with nerfs have not completely killed the decks. They've just brought them back more in line, maintaining their competitive nature, so it's still worth it to chase after these cards to be able to build those lists if you think that you're going to enjoy running them. Hood and Spider-Man, both of these nerfed. Hood brought down to a -3 stat line instead of -2. My favorite card in the game, and actually getting a little bit more meta limelight in the clutter and junk style decks with the Viper kicking him across. The -3 just biting that much harder when you actually get the combo to come together. And then Spider-Man, certainly nerfed, increased in cost from 4 to 5, but is still doing amazing with any kind of location lockdown, and alongside high evolutionary especially, finding incredible value. As we progress on to Series 4, we have, for the first time ever, brand new cards dropping directly into Series 4 with Spider-Ham, an incredible highlight. I think Spider-Ham is going to be the most competitive card to release here in the Spider-Verse season. I would put him as one of the highest priorities possible. As you go down the meta list of decks and you ask yourself, which one of these decks how would they feel if their most expensive card lost its ability and turned into a pig? Most of those decks would just want to retreat. Even High Evolutionary, that's going to be running the Hulk, wants to have that Hulk ability rather than dropping the Hulk for a 12 stat line power. Ooh, Spider-Ham, I'm scared of what he's going to do, because especially as he is going to be so accessible early on, I think he's going to have an explosion of presence in the meta. Though it is worth noting that with the one High Evolutionary deck running Infinite right now, it could backfire on you. So we're going to have to be a little bit careful dancing around it. But his power is just so pivotal. Out of a 1 cost as well, 3k cost line, I would still be recommending him as a Series 5 card. That is how much faith I'm putting in the Spider-Ham. Right next to him is the Zabu, tried and true, meta-defining ever since his release. You need to get Zabu to be able to open up a whole world of deck building around the 4-cost cards, which are premium right now, especially when they get discounted down to 3 cost. It's amazing what Zabu is able to do. And to broaden our discussion to the token shop drops, we've got Null and Hawk here in some kind of limbo. They were predicted to drop 2 months ago, and they're still here. We have no word on how long they are going to stay, other than a promise from the developers that they will not stay forever. That's all that we know. They could drop next month. They could wait for another year. We really have no idea. They are also very powerful in the meta in their own given rights, though Null with Galactus faltering. I would certainly put a lot of value on the Hawk. The Null I would hold off on until we see where Galactus settles, who's dramatically changed as of the latest patch. But because Null and Hawk were scheduled to release to Series 3 before Zabu, it gives me even more confidence in recommending the purchase of the Zabu. Then, again, with the developers trying to cultivate more competitive cards here in the higher series, I think the fanboy special category is just going to expand. And so it really depends on what pieces you really want to highlight and what decks you have the most enjoyment playing. The stature is still very good alongside Black Bolt. If you have any deck that doesn't necessarily key around a 6 cost and is not trying to play Sarah on 5, then the Black Bolt stature is just an amazing baseline combo, 2-card combo, to be able to play on turn 5 and then lead into amazing stat drops on turn 6. MODOK, the linchpin for keeping discard in the meta right now. You have to have him if you still want to play discard. Sauron, having a little bit of a renaissance here, able to play alongside Shuri and then get you playing cards like your Red Skull, your Typhoid Mary, your Ebony Maw. If you like any of these cards, Sauron is going to do very well for you. Master Mold, and a brilliant tech card up against Dracula, up against Bounce. There's a lot of potential uses here for Master Mold, and even in particular up against the current high evolutionary matchup that is really keying off of Dracula being a powerful piece, I could see Master Mold having a lot of success. Spider-Man 2099 is going to be releasing new for 6. Destroys 1 card the first time that he moves. It's going to be hard for Bounce, I think, to be able to really key off of a lot of value on this because he's destroying a random card and he is required to be comboed with another card to be able to activate that destruction rather than Shang-Chi that can just play in directly. It is a way to actually be able to destroy Dracula, which could be something that decks are really looking for. There are going to be games where he's incredibly high value. You can pair him up with a full move list that sets up all the different move engines and then just drops Heimdall to be able to activate all of them at once. And then Spider-Man 2099 pseudo getting activated for free with the Heimdall just going to be moving everything anyway. Could be looking pretty good, but again, it's really going to be a fanboy special if you want to be running either a mid-range package with Spider-Man Miles Morales or if you want to be going full move there. Nimrod, Negasonic, Stegron, and Snowguard are all in the not worth category. I wouldn't necessarily be disappointed to open any of these as Series 3 cards, though I would be disappointed to open Snowguard. The rest of them are fine. They're just having a hard time finding their footing in the meta right now. Nimrod and Negasonic could be finding excellent positioning with some of the new cards releasing, but we'll talk about those in a minute. Current lay of the land in Series 5. Budgeting out in kind of 2 seasons here, it's hard for me to be able to find the right pacing for how much of the data mined cards to put up here on these slides, but in the big bads, huge shakeups, High Evolutionary is the top card. He has usurped Thanos at this point. He is the tip of the meta spear. Galactus getting nerfed is pushing him down significantly, so my priority is High Evolutionary Thanos, then actually Iron Lad Jeff, and then wait around. Galactus if you really like the playstyle, and we'll see where his footing ends up being. Kang is significantly weaker. Living Tribunal is not finding any recourse or reason to be in the meta at the moment. And frankly, saving tokens to be looking forward to cards like Jean Grey sounds like a fantastic idea. Now we have in the wait for drop category Howard. Howard's just not very pivotal for very many decks. He's probably not going to be recommended in Series 4 either. We're going to be waiting to see him in Series 3. Kitty, I am hoping, will drop very quickly because of the nature of her getting released into Series 5, but then also being just free to everyone. I hope you guys got her rather than being a new player now and waiting to get her, because she is the best thing for Bounce and one of the best things for Sarah, especially combined with Hitmonkey. You want to have these two cards working together. Hopefully they drop together into Series 4. Basically, I'm putting this recommendation here because I am expecting that they will be moving down into Series 4 within the foreseeable future. If they end up just waiting and waiting and waiting, at least there's other very tempting cards to grab up your token expenditure. But if you really want to play Bounce, you're going to have to buy Kitty because she unlocks so much for that deck. I'm not too high on Silk. I've gotten to play her a little bit. I think that she's fine in Series 4. In Series 5, there's just other cards that are edging her out in terms of your priorities. Again, Iron Lad and Jeff looking very powerful. I feel like in the head-to-head, I would just rather take Jeff. There's a lot of echoes of similarity between these two cards, and I fall on the Jeff side as getting a higher priority. He also has had no word of dropping. People were hoping that he would drop. He falls a little bit into the same limbo category that we had of Hawk and Null, but Jeff is staying. No idea when he's going to drop. If you have High Evolutionary Thanos and Iron Lad, then I would buy Jeff next. If not, then I would be looking to be able to prioritize again that order. High Evolutionary Thanos, Iron Lad, Jeff. Those are your cards. Now let's get into some of the more spicy data mines. You're going to have to let me know your thoughts on these new cards down in the comments below, because I'm very excited for the potential here. And I am actually a little terrified of what Jean Grey could really look like in action. 3/3 ongoing players must play their first card here each turn if possible. Location Lockdown is already running the meta into a very high level, and Jean Grey is just going to make those decks that much better. Being able to marry her up alongside Mojo, being able to set up something like the Nebula on a different lane, and then Jean Grey, a magnet to the opponent having to play cards to her location, letting that Nebula scale to infinity, able to play Guardians in conjunction with Jean Grey, where you're effectively guaranteed to be able to land attacks, able to play flexible movement cards, so you're still playing, but then you're spreading your effect to the rest of the board. A deck that is kitted around being able to use Jean Grey's ability to their advantage is going to be able to run over opponents who are unprepared. You can also just play her on turn 3 and watch your opponent overcommit to the location while you are able to drop tiny cards down and then be able to put pressure on other locations if you're playing something like Thanos or Bounce and you have the access of a lot of cards comboing together in every situation. She is so flexible in terms of her different applications that I could go on and on. Hopefully I have sparked your respect for what this card can do with just these spitball ideas rapid fire. She's going to be releasing alongside Echo, who also seems amazing. Now I'm anticipating Jean Grey Series 5. Echo could also be Series 5. We don't know how many cards are going to be in Series 4 in any given season. It looks like Legion is also a Leafs card that could be releasing alongside these. He seems a little bit weaker. I might expect him to be in Series 4. And then Echo, her ability is very impressive, so she could be landing in Series 5 as well. So I'm recommending saving for her. A 1/2 after your opponent plays an ongoing card here. Remove its abilities. Insane. Able to have this haven, this protection, a way to be able to pair up with, say, Wong, so that the opponent is a way to actually counter the Cosmo. Cosmo drops and it's blipped out. The Professor X drops, it's blipped out. If you're playing this alongside something like Daredevil or Kang, maybe not Kang, but playing it alongside Daredevil, as long as you have initiative and can catch out the opponent by activating Echo first, then you could really diffuse some very powerful ongoing cards from the opponent's side. And with how many ongoing engine pieces are popular in the meta right now, you can put some dramatic restrictions on the opponent. I'm just imagining a world where you're using Goose to be able to block out Hawk getting played somewhere, and then Echo blocking out yet another location where the opponent can play Hawk, who's a very powerful and popular package at the moment. Of course, they can use Zabu to fit under Goose, so there is some interplay there. We're going to have to see where she really lands, but I'm very excited for her potential and the threat out of her, especially coming with the 1/2 stat line. I feel happy dropping her down and then just being able to watch the opponent struggle with the constriction that I am putting on them. It is only the opponent. Your ongoing cards are fine. Anything goes for you. It's just the opponent who is going to be paying the price.